What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be digging deeper into the Blox Fruit bulletin number 22. So I'm sure, as you guys know, Blox Fruits was a little, I'm going to say they were slacking a little bit when it came to pushing out stuff and updates and all that, but they've given us these bulletins that we can have so we can read them and try to learn more about what's going to happen. And so today I'm gonna explain to you all about the Blox Fruit bulletin number 22 and what I think about it. So, based off this picture right here, right now, looks like it's like a summer type of update. I'm sure everyone can assume that already. No more sailing blind with a new map by your side. Looks like a new navigation system, maybe. Who else has gotten lost at sea? Don't worry, it's natural. After all, the sea is so vast that 97% of it has yet to be discovered by the world's renowned scientists. Between the reefs, fog banks, and terrifying ocean lurkers, keeping track of which directions I had already sailed was a nightmare. So it looks like they're talking about people, who are new to seas, trying to figure their way out through islands and stuff. Thankfully, this is no longer a problem anyone has to deal with. The new navigational charts being handed out across the seas have completely changed how I explore. I can mark locations as I discover them. I've even managed to find my way back to that half-finished lead I abandoned 3 islands ago. So it looks like they're talking about a new maybe display, a new navigation system, and I think this is a great idea because especially when new players in the first seed, they usually struggle a lot. They usually struggle with finding their way, knowing which islands are which, and I feel like a good visual representation of this would be very helpful to new players and players reaching new seas. So readers, keep an eye out for your own new and improved map making its way to you. If you've ever felt like that world was too big to keep track of it might now finally feel easier to navigate. Yeah, I think this is good. A small but pretty useful update. Of course, if you're max level, you don't really care, all the maps. But I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's a good little update to have out. Let's move on. Let's move to this part. Magma Village on Edge. For as long as most residents of Magma Village can remember, the soldiers stationed here have felt less like occupying forces and more like neighbors. They ate at the same stalls, walked the same trails, and nodded the same nods in passing. Some of us had genuinely started to consider them part of the island's community. However, that goodwill is beginning to run out. In recent weeks, the military presence of the island has swelled, and so has the excavation working tearing into the volcano's core. That's pretty interesting. I've watched residents be pushed further and further from their own homes and see the ground shake more violently with each new drill, and witness families who once welcomed their soldiers with open arms start locking their doors instead. Nobody is saying it outright, but the peace here is starting to crack. I wonder, are they talking about a new island or a reworked island maybe? Elemental creatures have begun to emerge from the volcano. Once being long dormant within the magma, the creatures have been seen fighting against the military. It seems as though the island itself is pushing back against whatever is happening beneath it. What is buried down there, what's worth risking a village's trust, and ugh. Oh my goodness. And possibly its safety. Nobody in the military is willing to answer that question at this point. However, it seems that somebody down there clearly wants it badly enough to find out the hard way. This is interesting. Let's take a. So let's see. Let's zoom in on this picture here. Okay, so based off what they're saying, I think this might be a new island because these little creatures coming and killing and fighting the military. I think these are the new NPCs that are yet to come. And yeah, so I think this is gonna be a new island that's coming out. I don't know. Most likely third sea. I don't know. Maybe it's a magma village type of island that's a rework. I'm not quite sure, but I do think it's a new island, so we should stay tuned for that. Let's move on to this page. Recolored and reforged. Multiple new fruit variants have surfaced. Oh wait, let's take a look at this image real quick. That is a cool image. Let's zoom in on this real quick. Wow. So this looks like a gravity fruit, but it looks like it's a different color. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way it's here, but this looks like the new magnet fruit that they were talking about. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a very nice visual. Look at the eyes. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know what this red, and there's like one little like arm coming this way and one arm coming this way. I wonder, maybe it's like a like different variants. You know how like we have different fruit skins? Maybe that's like what it is, because you have maybe like a magnet fruit that's like red, or like the magnet fruit that's like maybe purple. I'm not sure. You know how Rumble has like the red, yellow, blue, and green? Not blue and green, but I think it's something like that. Well, let's read. Scientists across the seas have spent years attempting the impossible, trying to recreate the mystical properties of block fruits in their own labs. So this looks like mutations or like different skins, I'm assuming. They have been hoping to engineer variants of their own. While recolors have been made possible, it just feels like the world needs a little more. I think this what they mean by this is like, you know how Finity has a little bit of a different moveset, but like in a different color. I think this is what they're talking about. Maybe, like fruits with like a different like color, maybe a move or two switch. Like how Kitsune, like the Imperium Kitsune, and has like a little bit of a different moveset. I think something like that. Most of the research has quietly stalled, not from a lack of effort, but because something far more interesting has been discovered just recently. Multiple new fruit variants. Oh, I think this is what they're saying. New skins and stuff. Multiple new fruit variants have surfaced in the wild, each carrying a strikingly different appearance from the fruit they originate from. While the powers beneath remain unmistakably familiar, naturally, every lab that had been chasing synthetic recreations, I think it's recreations, that's interesting, have dropped what they're doing to study the real thing instead. Keep an eye out for these variants to be open to the public soon. So I'm assuming this is going to be another one of those, mutations or something. You know how Tiger has a wolf mutation? I'm assuming it's going to be something like that. That's quite interesting. If this is the magnet fruit, though, this is going to be cool. That is a very cool fruit right there, if that's the magnet fruit. Right, let's move on here. The uprise or decline of piratology. I've never expected calm from a place called Pirate Village. This is in First Sea, by the way. But even by its own standards, things have gotten out of hand lately. It started small. Treasure going missing, the usual grumbling you'd expect in a place full of untrustworthy pirates. Then, it escalated. The windmill mechanisms that keep half of the island running got jammed deliberately by a group of brutes who seemed to think it was funny. The brutes, I'm assuming they're talking about like the NPCs and stuff. When I stopped by a local pub to get a drink and ask a few questions, I found the bartender looking more rattled than I've ever seen him. Apparently, this group had visited more than once this week, and not for the owl, or I don't know what that means. Nobody I spoke to seemed to know who was behind the sudden spike in chaos, or whether it was even one group at all. What I do know is that the pirates' residents' patience is running thin, and they seem to have no intention of holding back if things continue to get worse. Will Pirate Village ever get a moment of peace? Interesting. So, I mean, this just looks like, pirates breaking out in chaos and stuff. I actually don't know what this means. This is quite interesting. I feel like this means, like, the tension that's been building up, maybe in Blox Fruits overall, is just really high. I think that's what this is really hinting towards. I'm not quite sure. And that's all, folks. Thanks for reading this week's bulletin. Stay tuned for bulletin number 23. Right, so no release date, nothing like that. So we just have to wait. Alright, that's okay. It's okay. Well, yeah, that's the Blox Fruit Bulletin number 22. Make sure to stay tuned for Blox Fruit Bulletin number 23. Definitely, I think there's some going to be cool changes coming up. And if this is the magnet fruit, that's going to be really cool. So, make sure to stay tuned for the Blox Fruit Bulletin number 23. Make sure to subscribe to Vivid Vortex if you want to see more content like this. Until next time.